Welcome back. Certainly, given the turmoil in the streets of America 2020, you may be feeling quite despondent or resigned about the state of race relations in America. Well, consider then the thoughts of a man who's been writing about race in the United States for decades as a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the Washington Post. Recently, Eugene Robinson was a speaker for the Detroit Regional Chamber's virtual version of the Mackinac Policy Conference, and he voiced a fair amount of optimism because of the diversity of voices he's seeing for the first time. And I was happy to get to ask him about it after his remarks.
I do believe this time is different. I believe we have arrived at someplace new. I think, welcome to the new America. And from this point, it's really up to all of us, not thinking of ourselves as a society, thinking of ourselves as individuals. It's up to every one of us, all 330 million of us, to decide what the next step is and the step after that, to decide what steps we can take in our personal lives, in our own offices, in our own families, what we can do to make it better. It's up to all of us to shape the future. And it's an exciting project, an exciting prospect for the next years and decades. And let's get to it. We're someplace new. We've never been here before. Let's make it a better place.
Eugene, I want to start with the fact that you kind of you admitted you're an optimist, and I wonder how many times before you have felt like we were at the doorstep of real progress and it just didn't happen. We think of so many images that we've seen that might have ignited or we hoped would ignite real change, whether it was Rodney King, Eric Garner, too many to mention. But I wonder how many times you felt that optimism before, and if you've been able to discern why this optimism is that different to you.
Well, look, I will date myself, but after the 60s, all the changes, right? Because I grew up in South Carolina when the struggle was on to pass the landmark legislation, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act. So I remember Jim Crow segregation. I remember in Orangeburg, South Carolina, where there were black schools, there were white schools, and then there were not. Eventually, it took a while and it took struggle, but there were not. And there was a moment at the end of the 60s, the beginning of the 70s, when the civil rights legislation was really taking hold, and affirmative action programs were beginning to sort of level the playing field for African Americans. And certainly for me, and I think for a lot of people, that was a time of great optimism. It's different now because the legal battles have basically been won, right? I mean, racial discrimination is basically outlawed, but certainly not eliminated. It's a different kind of struggle. It's really against racism. It's against systems and attitudes and practices that are not always dealt with by the legislation. Now, there's been some legislative setbacks. I mean, a lot of the Voting Rights Act, for example, was invalidated by the Supreme Court, and I think that's, the efforts to fix that in Congress are very important. But I can't recall a time between then and now where I have felt that we might be taking a giant step toward a fairer and more just nation. And really the big reason for me is the diversity of the Americans who have been involved in this outpouring. The fact that I went down to the protests in Washington and I just saw kinds of crowds that I had never seen before at a social justice protest. And I didn't see them after Rodney King. I didn't see them after Eric Garner, after those high-profile incidents. Something about this time And maybe it's because it's a time of such disruption with the pandemic, with the economic crisis. Maybe people were more open to seeing the world in a different light right now than they are normally. But it's been a long time since I've had this kind of optimism about a real step forward.
One of the things that I wonder is whether all of this would have happened and fomented had it not been for coronavirus. We had an intense pressure that the pandemic has put on communities of color, but we also had a lot of people staying at home, out of work. It gave people a lot of time to hit the streets.
It sure did.
Between the time and the anger that they were already feeling and the frustration over the pandemic, that all kind of added into the kettle, didn't it?
Oh, it certainly did. People, yes, had a lot of time on their hands, had a lot of frustration and anger that came from the pandemic and the economic crisis, and also I just think having seen the whole society sort of upended by the disease and the economic crisis, we're open to the possibility of big change, I think, perhaps in a way that normally people are not. Normally people are, they get up, they go to work, they get home, they're worried about their families, they worry about their routines. Nobody has a routine anymore. Routines are out the window. So maybe that did create a certain sort of receptiveness to new messages and new ideas.
If you'd like to see all of Eugene's remarks and our Q&A, we've put that link at clickondetroit.com on our Flashpoint page. Back with more in just a minute. We're going to meet Rona when we come back.